So this is How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please, don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. Or it could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wait bright and early, they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what I'll do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. Then he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he grabbed his dog Max, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head, and he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks in a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up! And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. The Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney. A rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. And he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. Around the whole room, And he took every present. Pop guns, bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycle, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's Feast, he took the Who Pudding, he took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? And you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Oh, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that don't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. And he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. When Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. 'Twas 1/4 dawn. All the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze. When he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pow, pow to the hose. He was grinchishly humming. Oh, they're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. Oh, they're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a sound, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. Oh, it couldn't be so. But it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. Oh, and that Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then The Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought. It doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Merry Christmas. Thank you. You love that part. You love the part where the Grinch carved the roast beast. Is that your favorite part? Thank you for helping me with that story. You did a great job with helping me. Yes. You used to watch that show. Do you know I have never seen that show? I've never, ever seen that show. I learned to read this when I was young, and I've just continued to read it.
The Grinch is so funny. I like showing how the Grinch talks.
Did you like would you guys like to practice making a Grinch face?
Yeah!
Okay, well, it's pretty easy. Squint your eyes, and then see if you can turn your, yeah, there you go. And then kind of make a funny voice. You can make a funny voice. Do you know what? You know what? When you read stories, it's a very good thing to practice making the characters come alive. It's a very good thing for you to practice how the characters might sound. You had a question or a comment.
Every Christmas I watch that movie.
You watch that movie every Christmas. That's great to have a tradition, isn't it? Yes, back here. Did you? Yes.
I'm scared of
You're scared of the Grinch? Are you scared of my Grinch face? Or just of the Grinch in general? The Grinch in general. Do you know sometimes, long time ago when I used to do this, one time I was doing it for a bunch of really little kids, about 2- and 3-year-olds, and some of them started crying when I did the Grinch.
The Grinch dressed up like Santa because he wanted to take over the whole Christmas.
Yes.
He didn't want to share the present.
Exactly. He thought people wouldn't be suspicious of him if he was dressed up like Santa. Except what does Santa do? Santa brings presents, doesn't he? Yeah.
He's up in the sky at the North Pole.
He's up in the sky at the North Pole. Very good. Well, thank you.
Boys and girls, what do we say?
Thank you.
You are most welcome. It was my pleasure. It was a joy to be with you today.